Welcome to my presentation created for Futures Festival 2015, titled Identifying the Barriers to Using Technology for Differentiation in the Classroom and the Knowledge Teachers Require to Overcome Them. My name is Debbie Beyer. I'm a primary school teacher at a state school situated in a low socio-economic area in Brisbane North. The aim of this presentation is to encourage teachers to use technology to provide differentiated instruction as mandated by Australian government policy. According to a number of researchers, including Diana Lawrence Brown and Tondua and his colleagues, technology can be used to provide a learning environment which can make meeting the needs of a diverse group of students manageable in the classroom. If this statement is true, then some obvious questions come to mind. First of all, why is technology not being used more for this purpose? What is preventing my colleagues and I from using technology for this purpose? And what can be done to increase the use of technology for differentiated instruction? In this presentation, I will discuss some of these barriers and provide some theoretical knowledge to assist teachers and administrators to overcome them. The presentation will conclude with some ways that this knowledge can assist my colleagues and I to make changes to the way we are currently using technology and some ideas for future use. Before my discussion begins, however, it is important to spend a moment focusing on the main aim of any discussion in the topic of technology and differentiated instruction, which is improved learning outcomes for students. According to Scott and Scott, in order for these improvements to occur, the technology selected must be relevant to the student's needs, and the teacher needs to be able to use this technology proficiently in the classroom. The graphic represents a snapshot of a typical mainstream classroom. Most Australian classrooms will include students from a range of ethnic backgrounds, students with physical and intellectual disabilities, and students with a range of learning styles and abilities, all of whom will benefit from differentiated instruction. My school is a state primary school in a low socio-economic area in Brisbane North. The school has approximately 340 students currently enrolled from prep to year 6. The technology available in each classroom includes an interactive whiteboard and data projector. Unfortunately, the interactive whiteboards are not user-friendly and so are often used only as projector screens for the data projector. Each classroom has 2 PCs and the teachers have their own laptops. Some teachers bring their own tablet devices, iPods and smartphones for classroom use. Shared resources include 2 computer labs, only one of which has enough computers for a whole class of students to use it at the same time, 10 iPads, which are allocated to the SEP and learning support. Digital cameras are available from the library. The school has Wi-Fi, but the bandwidth often cannot accommodate current usage levels. A computer tech visits the school once per week. For the coming year, the school has bought 100 EXO laptops, enough for 4 class sets allocated to the lower school. This purchase was made quickly as a too good to be missed opportunity. There is no overall plan for the use of technology in the school. Individual teachers have found their own communities of practice outside of the school, but there is not one within the school itself. The level of technology use varies greatly from classroom to classroom throughout the school. Here we are presented with the image of a teacher at work with the word barriers and implementation bridge behind her. The intention here was to symbolise that what is observed in the classroom is directly affected by a number of barriers. However, these barriers may not be immediately obvious to the casual observer. Research suggests that there are 2 main types of barriers within organisations: organisational and personal. Within my context, there are 2 quite obvious organisational barriers. These are limited resources, both in terms of technical staffing, hardware and infrastructure, and top-down decision-making influenced strongly by the school budget rather than ease of use. These barriers are similar to those identified by researchers such as Hall, Scott and Tondeur, and include poor change management, technology choices guided by cost, insufficient resources and a top-down approach. as major organisational barriers to technology adoption in schools. These organisational barriers directly influence the personal barrier of lack of time, as teachers are reluctant to use technology which is difficult to use and access. Other personal barriers identified in the research include the time it takes to become skilled, that teachers approach change differently, they have individual interests, and they have different levels of competency. At any given time, teachers will be at different points along the journey towards mastery of using technology in the classroom. The implementation bridge metaphor provides a useful process to document a teacher's current use of technology. It can also provide insight into the change processes which enable or prevent teachers from moving across the bridge towards greater proficiency. Teachers' proficiency will be determined by the processes and organisational conditions listed here. These include levels of use, innovation configuration, stages of concern, and leadership. Let's look at each of these processes and organisational conditions briefly and then relate them to the context being discussed. If we begin with level of use, the model identifies 8 levels of use of technology in the classroom. These range from non-use to renewal, where teachers are using technology in innovative ways and seeking more effective alternatives. Studies have shown that it can take 3 to 5 years or longer to move from non-user to routine user. In our current context, most teachers are at the mechanical level of use, as it is difficult to move beyond mechanical use to routine use when technology is not readily accessible or user-friendly. Innovation configuration is the way the technology is actually used in the classroom. For example, laptops may be used for developing and publishing project-based work, word processing, or playing games as rewards in class. If they are used mostly for playing games, one would expect student learning outcomes to be lower than if their primary use was for project-based work and collaboration. In our current context, we would find that limited access to technology can result in technology being used for activities which are not those which would produce the best results for students. The next area, stages of concern about the innovation, range from unconcerned to impact levels. This is the emotional part of the change process and fits into the personal barriers section of this discussion. This aspect of the implementation bridge is arguably the most important part of the change process. Teachers at the impact stage who are primarily concerned with technology to increase student outcomes will find ways to overcome organisational barriers to just make it happen. Alternatively, teachers in the self or unconcerned level may still not use technology even if the organisational barriers could be overcome. In the current context, even teachers who understand the impact that technology can have on differentiated instruction are operating at the task level due to the amount of organisation required to get basic access to technology in the school. The last area is leadership. Researchers have identified 3 main styles of change facilitation which principals may demonstrate. These are responders, managers, and initiators. In most of the studies mentioned in the Hall article, schools led by initiators had the most implementation success. However, in our current context, the predominant style of leadership is that of manager. Technology decisions are made in a very budget-conscious way and mainly to comply with departmental expectations. This section answers the first 2 questions presented by identifying possible barriers to using technology in the classroom. I will now move on to the next section, which will answer our 3rd question: what can be done to increase the use of technology for differentiated instruction? In order to increase the use of technology in classrooms, it is necessary to understand how change occurs in complex systems like schools. Change in complex systems requires attention to the key features of chaos theory. As I am assuming that you are familiar with chaos theory, I will not go into detail here. The illustration represents a range of people with stakes in the change process within schools. These include administrators, teachers, students and many others. The thought bubble represents the combination of the knowledge of their stakeholders and research findings. Pereira and Van Petegem suggest that communities of practice are a necessary vehicle for teachers to continue to move toward becoming proficient users of technology. Jones and Vincent suggest just-in-time training using collegial mentors can offer individual teachers the support they require. Combining both these ideas by setting up a community of practice within the school, which does not preclude involvement with external communities of practice, may be one answer. This community of practice could serve a number of purposes such as sharing of resources and collaborating to create new resources, assisting colleagues to use existing resources as efficiently as possible, providing mentoring or peer coaching on current and new technologies for differentiated instruction, investigating ways to obtain additional resources, and advising management on future technology requirements. The benefits of such an approach would be reduced time wasted in trial and error learning and managing access to resources, provide professional development at the point of need to move teachers more efficiently toward the goal of proficient use of technology for differentiation. Teachers would feel that they had more say in decisions regarding the type of technology which is purchased for the school, increasing their motivation to use it. Future thinking enables administrators to plan and budget for future purchases, hopefully ensuring that new technologies are selected on the basis of ease of use rather than being the right price. Specific recommendations for this context would include encouraging participation in communities of practice, identifying technology mentors within the school, developing an ICT school policy plan, and investigating a Bring Your Own Device program. The changes outlined here could quickly move teachers from mechanical use of technology to routine use, which is the level of skill required for teachers to effectively use technology for differentiation. I will now look at some current tools available for differentiation and conclude with some crystal ball gazing for the future with the help of the NMC Horizon Reports for 2014. There are many apps and online tools available for classroom use. Perhaps the best advice I could find was in a blog by Beth Holland from June 2014 named Cardboard Box Tools. She encourages teachers to build an empty toolbox by choosing apps where the students create the content. Students can then learn and demonstrate learning in a way which makes the most sense to them. Some examples that she gave included for iPad, Show Me or Explain Everything. Students can type, draw, write, record audio, create video, tell stories and annotate documents using these apps. ThingLink is an app for iOS and web platforms and allows students to choose an image as a background and lets them add links, images, videos, sound and text as hotspots on top of the picture. Padlet can be used on any device and enables teachers and students to build digital boards of images, videos, links and text. Other tools that can assess student independence in class include Natural Reader, which is a floating toolbar which enables selected text to be read aloud and can be used for Word documents, web documents and PDF files. Alternate keyboards and word prediction can provide support for writing. What could a differentiated classroom look like in the future? Personalised learning is a combination of learning analytics, tablet computing and cloud computing. Personal learning already occurs in a small way as users collect their own apps and resources on their own devices. The more complicated version, adaptive learning, is a little further off. Adaptive learning will involve an intervention-focused machine intelligence which will interpret a student's learning data and change the learning environment accordingly. This will enable students to determine the strategy and pace in which they learn. Students will develop their own digital portfolios which they will build throughout their school and career. In closing, it is important to remember that differentiated instruction needs to begin with a focus on the learners and not the technology. However, I hope this presentation has encouraged you to use technology as part of your toolkit to assist you in providing differentiated instruction in your classroom. Thank you for listening to my presentation.